Welcome. So I'm Janie Brooks, host of this event, and I want to tell you a little story about why I'm here and how I got here. We, about a year and a half ago, started filling out our application to become a certified B Corporation, which is not the topic for tonight. But in that process, I learned about a company called 1% for the Planet. And I was super interested in it. Didn't have enough time really to follow up. Most of you that know me know that my time is fairly limited and my attention span is short. And I happened to be on a plane one day flying from Burlington, Vermont after visiting my daughter at college to New York. Sat next to this woman, very nice. We traded a few words. She was like an environmental something something and I had a winery. And when we went to get off the plane, we traded cards. And she was the CEO of 1% for the Planet. And I said, oh, I've been wanting to learn more about 1% for the Planet and consider joining. And she looked at my card and she goes, Amity, Oregon? One of my top employees is in Amity, Oregon. And I thought, what are the chances of that? So kind of knew it was destined to be. And really, really proud. I think most of you that saw anything that I said about tonight, I went to their global summit in April, and to spend 2.5 days surrounded by people who were either giving money to nonprofits for environmental-based causes or receiving the money from all these companies and creating amazing opportunities about helping our planet was the most inspirational time I've spent, at least in my career here. And I want to share it all with you. We all know that being in the Willamette Valley, we are one of the most sustainable-minded, and I hate that word, Tom, but we are. We have more certified vineyards and wineries than anywhere in the country, and we all really, really care about why we're here and what we do. It's kind of the Oregonian way, and so I wanted to be able to share tonight with all of you about 1% for the Planet. I'm going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves, what company they work with, and how long they have been part of 1% for the Planet.
How's everybody doing? Thanks for coming. My name is Christian Ettinger. I'm the founder of Brewmaster, Hopworks Urban Brewery in sunny southeast Portland. We've been, I guess, around 12 years, and then we've been a member of 1% for the Planet for 3 years, I think, and B Corp for 4. And so proud to be here. And got 150 employees, 4 restaurants, and we're doing about 10,000 barrels a year of beer, which equates to about 140,000 cases. So I'm just selling on the West Coast, so small footprint, but really trying to use beer as a force for good. So.
My name is James Frey, founder and winemaker at Trisaetum Winery. I'm the newbie. We've been a part of 1% since August, so I can talk a little bit about what it's like to join a really amazing organization.
And my name is Danny Metcalf. I'm the Director of Business Operations for Brew Kombucha, the smelly fermented beverage out of the 3 up here. I think we've been a 1% member for 4 years, and a B Corp for 1.5. Also really excited to be here and looking forward to the panel.
Good evening. I'm Taylor Herren, and I'm here from Los Angeles representing the nonprofit Kiss the Ground, and we're lucky enough to be the recipient nonprofit of Brooks Winery, and we've been a part of 1% for the Planet for about 3 years.
Globally, there's 2,500 members of 1% for the Planet, company members in 45 countries. So it's definitely a global movement. There are individual members, and there are several thousand nonprofits. They gave $225 million to these nonprofits, the members did. And their membership is growing like crazy. They had 500 new members last year. In 2018, they're verging on 900 new members. So it's definitely catching on. Yvon Chouinard, how many of you have read Yvon Chouinard's book that founded Patagonia? He calls this an earth tax, that we should all be paying our earth tax because we are the ones that have stripped the resources in so many ways from the land, and this is our opportunity to give back. A great story about Patagonia, what they did in the election year, is they typically on Black Friday would sell $2 to $3 million worth of merchandise on a Black Friday, and after the election, they decided to offer donating 100% of their proceeds that day. $16 million on Black Friday, 70% of which came from new customers. So incredible. I mean, he is leading the movement. I got to meet him last year at the Global Summit. He had some Rostabon, Brooks wine. And we sat there and talked about biodynamic farming and climate change and the impact of how you're farming and whether or not that's truly going to make a difference. Amazing, super amazing. So panel-wise, I want to ask each of you. So one of the things that I love about 1% for the 1% for the planet as well is you have a lot of choices. You have choices about how you structure your giving. You also have choices about who receives your giving and how often and why. So I'd like each of the panelists, if you'll talk about the decision that you made of who to give to, how often, just kind of what your process was in terms of, and what part of your revenue you decided to structure as your giving.
So we just finished our planning for next year just yesterday, so the question couldn't have come at a better time because I wouldn't have been able to answer it 2 days ago. But 1% for the planet, we look at brewery wholesale sales. So we have two divisions of the company, 75% of our revenues on the pub side, 25% on the wholesale side. So we elected to go with the wholesale revenue because it affects all aspects of the business. And it's also a little higher margin, we could afford to give that money. And because our beer flow, our seasonal works in trimesters, and we really didn't think we could just double or triple down on water or global warming. We're like, okay, what are three things that we can get our heads around, resonate with the customers, simple, and we're passionate about? So trimester 1 with Juicy Bear Hazy IPA is going to be a new partnership we've inked with Friends of the Trees. So we're going to talk about carbon sequestration, all under the auspices of climate change and mitigating climate change. 4 months of work with Friends of the Trees, with a kickoff party, rounding up with Earth Day, then T2 aligns with another beer, and that's totally chill, and this is now a partnership with Street Trust. This is about getting cars off the road and getting more bikes out there. And so we're going to start it off with the Bike More Challenge, and then have a couple events. Also, there's a volunteer event with each trimester, so our employees can be engaged 3 times a year. And then the way we spread and then the third trimester is the beer Abominable, which is here as well, and that is a really cool winter ale. But we're focused then with the Nature Conservancy on October forest or water issues. The Nature Conservancy touches a lot of things, but we said, okay, water, primary ingredient, bikes, I love motorcycles, bicycles, two-wheel passion, and then the first part of the year on reforestation. So that's how we laned it out, and it was that bouncing ball, the rhythm we could make sense. It wasn't too much. We used to do we'd do it 12 times a year, and you just have this really $400, and it wasn't enough to even justify the nonprofit mobilizing at your place, let alone make an impact in their budget. But now we can give several thousands of dollars. We can market with them for a steady period, make an impact, and get volunteering involved as well. So that's how we decided to lay it out.
That's great. So one of the great things about 1% is that they do give you options in terms of baby steps. And so being our first year this year, we decided to do 1% of our tasting room revenue, which is about 50% of the total revenue at the winery. And it has gone so well this year that we are going to move to 1% of our total revenue next year and going forward. So it's been a huge success. But the nice thing was the baby step of putting your toe in the water and maybe not going 100% of your revenue, but finding some a line of business, or for us it was a channel through our tasting room. In terms of our partner, we've decided we wanted to stay local. We wanted to pick a smaller organization that fit a little bit about what we do as a vineyard and as a sustainable organization. And so our first partner that we're working with is Bee Girl, who is out of Ashland, Oregon. And Bee Girl basically works with creating regenerative agriculture, bee-friendly environments. And one of the challenges with a vineyard is that vineyards are notoriously bee-unfriendly. Right? You wipe out all of the native flora that the bees use to pollinate, and you put grapevines in, and you try not to grow anything else other than grapevines in your 30 or 40 or 50 acres, which is not very friendly. And so what we were able, so besides finding someone who we believed in and being able to donate to, we've actually we're working with her to now create a bee-friendly vineyard in both of our estate vineyards, both around surrounding the vineyards, but actually inside the vineyards as well. So what's really been great about 1% for us is finding like-minded individuals that we can give to, but then to partner with and to work with and to create opportunities for our employees to go out and actually our employees will end up planting all of these bee-friendly gardens, both inside our vineyard and outside of our vineyard. The other thing that we're doing is that once a quarter. So we have our core main one or two organizations that we work with, but every quarter we allow one of our employees to pick any of the 2,000 organizations on 1% for the Planet. There's no parameters. Anything that they want to give to for that quarter, we'll make a donation to that organization. And so it's been great because we basically gone reverse tenure. So the employee that's been around the longest gets to go first, and on and on and on, and they have a chance to, and what's great is the website, if you've not been on the 1% for the Planet website, it is incredibly easy to use, and there are thousands of places that you can give money to, and so it's exciting for our employees to get to spend a little bit of time going through that and finding something that tugs at their heartstrings and is important to them.
Yeah, it's great. We have a similar employee program. Yeah. So at Brew Doctor, I think we were actually almost the reverse, where we had a nonprofit that we were already donating to, Matt Thomas and Bethany Thomas. Matt's our founder, and Bethany is his wife. Bethany founded Ecology in the Classroom, a local nonprofit that gets students engaged in the outdoors. And we were giving up office space to Ecology in the Classroom, and it dawned on us that we were giving what is called an in-kind donation within 1% for the Planet. So that was our initial reason to join 1% for the Planet, was to take that revenue or allocation that we were giving to ECO and then apply that to 1%. But as our revenue has grown, we've been able to really experience the full gamut of 1% for the Planet. We've recently partnered with what's called Bonneville Environmental Foundation, BEF, and they do offsets for Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. And with that, we have been able to be carbon neutral. If Heather was here, she would be very upset with me using that word. But our marketing team is using it. And that has been a big marketing push with us with Brew Doctor. And then similarly, we have within the B Corp structure, we have what we call B Hives, which is all of our different employees that get together. And we have 3 distinct teams, and one of those teams decides at the end of the year, if we have leftover 1% funds, we then apply that to what they decide on. So there's some employee autonomy that we really firmly believe in and excites them about the program. Oh, yeah.
So this was our first year, and I was very overwhelmed in terms of deciding where we were going to direct our funds. It was incredible. So Amanda is intimately familiar with everybody local, but all of their recipients across the globe. The first thing that we did, I think, together was we got Demeter, which we're biodynamic certified. We got Demeter to become a qualified recipient of 1% for the Planet, so very much aligned with what we do, although it's not who we selected this year. But Amanda, knowing Brooks and really getting to know us, kind of gave me a list of recommendations. So do you want to keep it local? Do you want to go international? Like, what are you looking to do? And knows that we're big believers in education. Obviously, we're farmers. And she gave me a list of companies to look into. So I started looking at all these websites. And I found Kiss the Ground. Which is, and Taylor can talk about it, but it was very much aligned with the educational side of what we do, and it's all about soil health and what we're putting in our bodies and the impact that farming has or does not have on climate change. And I was super passionate about it, and I thought, you know what, this is exactly the message. I chose just one because I could change it monthly, I could change it quarterly, I could pick 5, I could pick 10. But I really wanted to work on developing a really good partnership that benefited both organizations. The second thing that we're going to do is as part of being our B Corp, we have 20 hours of paid volunteer time for all of our team. So we are going to pick some organizations that are the environmental nonprofits for 1% for the Planet that are local. And those will be the volunteer days that our team will have choices of how they go spend their time. With that, I do want to show, so super exciting, and Taylor will talk more about this, but Kiss the Ground has a new feature-length documentary that will be coming out shortly about farming and soil health and climate change, and I want to show the trailer to all of you.
We really are going to get another microphone.
I really did not know how the soil worked. It's alive.
All of our soils that are under chemical conventional agriculture are almost completely devoid of microorganisms.
These chemicals, which were considered way too dangerous to use before, are now being used at rates that would have been inconceivable 20 years ago.
Wherever there's large-scale agricultural production, you see way too much bare ground.
About 2/3 of the world is turning to desert.
We are literally killing ourselves with the food production system we have today.
Time is running short. We need to do something now.
Through agriculture, we have unleashed carbon from the land, and it's now up in the atmosphere. It's now part of that legacy load of carbon dioxide. And many people are coming to this discussion about soil health because it can bring that carbon back down and put it in the ground.
The only goal of humanity is drawdown, a year-to-year reduction in carbon in the upper atmosphere. Once you achieve drawdown, within 20 years, you have cooling.
There could be a permanent agriculture that regenerated resources.
The principles of soil health are universal. This is not rocket science.
If you look over here, we have my neighbor's land that has been chemical fallowed. Then you look over at our paddocks. You have a diversity of different plant species. You have insects, you have wildlife, plus the livestock grazing on it. There you have soil. Over on this side, you have dirt.
By definition, you can't have delicious food without something going very, very right in environmental stewardship and soil health.
Healthy soils lead to a healthy plant, healthy animal, healthy human, healthy water, healthy climate. It's not a campaign, it's a movement.
Which model do you want your food to be produced from? The answer is pretty simple to me.
Our health and the health of our planet are connected. We are all on the spaceship together.
So very proudly, there's 12 movies that are picked for Sundance Film Festival. This is on the list of the 20 that are being considered, top 20. So that would be amazing messaging, which for all of you that know me and my love of marketing and messaging, you can see why I picked Kiss the Ground, because that's like really their goal. So I would love for Taylor, for you to talk a little bit about being a recipient and what that means and how you steer that funding and make a difference with your message.
I've been at Kiss the Ground about a year, so I get to watch that film and feel kind of a shameless sense of pride because I didn't, I'm somewhat new to the scene. So, I'll start by saying just how grateful we are to Janie for supporting us and bringing you all here tonight and giving me a chance to share. We've got 3 buckets of work that this funding supports. What we do and what we're most known for is our media. So we've got the documentary coming out. But we also do a lot of storytelling. That's what kind of we're known for. So we've got 60 or so short form content. I think the last 3 years alone, we've had 500 million impressions online. So we talk about building a movement, but we're really a believer in just getting this message out there. And the more people that hear it and see it will hopefully believe in it. And, I believe, and a lot of us on my team believe, is that this is the solution to the climate crisis. It's land and soil and food. And the more people that we can tell this story to and connect them to farmers, hopefully the more we can move the needle in that capacity. Part of what we're going to use the funding for this year is we're coming out with a mini series. So that's kind of a new thing in the media world, is you don't do a full-length series, you do kind of short-form episodes. So we're going to do an 8-part mini series about farmers across the country who are regenerating soils. And so part of the funding will cover one of those. The other thing we do is education and advocacy. So we offer a host of courses. We educate consumers and urban gardeners and businesses around regenerative sourcing and supply. But in particular, one of the things we do is we've got a curriculum for middle schoolers and an online learning platform. The reason we focus on middle school is because that's when kids learn about photosynthesis. So if we can, in tangent with educating them about photosynthesis, educating them about food and soil and agriculture, the idea is hopefully we can start creating some groundswell amongst youth. So the funding will help support some programming we're doing around that. And then last, but certainly not least, the majority of the funding is going to go into our farmer transition program. So it always sounds kind of silly because we're a bunch of millennials in LA, but we realized that the most direct way that we could regenerate soil is by supporting people who steward land. And so we were working with a farmer a few years back, and he's like, I get it. Like, I've seen the videos, I hear the message, I don't know where to start. And so that inspired us to create this program. And the way it works is that it's a 3-year engagement. A farmer comes and they sign up with us. It's about $8,000 a farmer. Over a 3-year period, we cover the cost of them to go to an intensive training. We outsource that. So it's actually a couple of those guys you saw in the video. They run a farmer training program. So we send them to an intensive training. We do soil testing in year 1 and year 3, so we can do baseline data that they can use to make management decisions, but then also in year 3 that we can test to kind of see progress that's been made. And then we do field consulting. So throughout the 3 years, they get quarterly consulting. So someone on land and then on their land, and then also they get quarterly calls where they get to connect with the other farmers in the program. So, in addition to just supporting those 3 things, we're a nonprofit, so donations like this are the lifeblood of how we operate. About 90% of our funding comes from private donors, 1% for the planet, companies who support us. It's all donations. In short, we turn a little bit of revenue from our courses, but we very much depend on the generosity of people who support our work. I'm going to be here for the next hour, so if you want to chat more about the organization, I'd love to. We've got great online resources. We're kisstheground.com, and yeah, check us out, and I'm happy to connect and share more. But thank you again so much for everything and having us here and all the support.
So one of the things that I think is really important is how we spread this word. And we all make different business decisions about how we spend our money and what we do, and whether or not it makes a difference. Do our customers care? Do anybody in our group that works with us from a supplier standpoint, going through the B Corp process and then joining 1% for the Planet, I had one of our growers who emailed me, and I have some growers in the room. I actually have the first grower that's committed to joining 1% for the Planet. But I was asked for, to pay more money for my fruit. And I said, there's one thing I'm willing to pay more for, and that it's you farm the way that I think you need to be farming. And in that short conversation, and so motivated by not only B Corp, but 1% for the Planet, we got 20% of our fruit source to convert to biodynamics. And I thought, you know what? That's real change. There's so much I can do, but that is like real change. So I'm glad some of my growers are in the room, but we're going to continue that conversation because I think it's really important. But I think that we all have that opportunity on a daily basis. And I would love to hear from the panelists about what it means to your constituency groups, whether they be your suppliers, whether they be your customers, whether they be your team, your stakeholders. Like, what does it mean to be part of 1% for the planet, and how has it changed your business?
I think it's really gives you a sense of community that you never would have had otherwise. And the best example I have of that is on the bar over there. We make a couple beers for Patagonia. So a small family-owned company. This is my wife, business partner, better half over here. We got a call about 4 or 5 years ago from Patagonia. It said they have a regenerative wheatgrass, and the only organic brewery they could find to make it on the West Coast was us. And we were so proud at that moment to find that the founder of 1%, or co-founder of 1%, Patagonia, identified us as a potential partner. So they were looking for like-minded individuals to help to elevate the discussion. We are the first product to market in the U.S. and I think the world with this regenerative wheatgrass called Kernza, developed by the University of Kansas Land Institute in Kansas, University of Minnesota. And so we're so proud to have people come to us and for us to be able to identify sourcing partners, to identify customers. And I think what it does is 1% takes it out of a business engagement and really brings it into, a really deep, I guess, kind of passionate engagement where you're engaging like-minded people to truly change the world. So this is a long play. We realize that these engagements cost a little bit more to source responsibly, and your customers understand, hopefully, the messaging, the gradient for sustainability. Sustainability wasn't a household word, until maybe within the last decade. And 1% for the planet will be a household word, as will B Corp. I still feel like I'm giving these elevator pitches and I get this kind of golden retriever look and head tilt, like, what the hell are you talking about? Just give me a cold beer and I'm happy. And for 80, 90%, that's cool, but it's a long, slow marinade, and we're doing the right work. We got our head out of the foxhole. We're telling the message like we are here, and half of it is the business success, but I think the other half is sharing the word. And it's as exciting as it is to have the wonderful people in the room. It's also neat to think of this message going through that camera over there and going out to a bunch of people who can sit on their phones in bed, in a couple of nights and check this thing out and get inspired, because everybody here is doing inspirational work. And I think that's really one of the great benefits, is kind of profess the gospel of sustainability.
As I mentioned earlier, we're brand new, so it's hard for me to judge customers of where this is going to go. And I know my Gen Z children are super excited. They're the ones that pushed me to join. But I have 2 of my team members here, and I'm going to put them on the spot because I do think it's already time to be able to. So you got like 5 seconds to figure out what you're going to say. They have now lived it since we've joined, and I would like to get their impression rather than me telling you how my team members are so excited about it. I'm going to ask them. So Stephanie, Jacob.
What's the question?
What's your guys' response to Trisaetum joining 1% as an employee?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Novak. I'm general manager at Trisaetum, and very much on the spot here, but I think it's really exciting. It kind of takes, maybe to play off of your concept there, it takes being an employee of a small group that works hard together. I mean, you have that sort of family experience already, but it gives you all a common passion, something to be really energized about that's more than just the work that you do. And I think it really plays into the business that we're in. We wouldn't be able to make a great bottle of wine without great grapes and without great input from the soil and the land that we farm. So it's something that is a really natural concept for us, and I think we all feel as employees that we can really stand behind it and find like-minded partners to share that passion with. So, Jacob.
Jacob, work at Trisaetum, logistics among other things. I'll share one specific example, sort of from Taylor's standpoint. We're in the process of figuring out which organizations we're going to donate to, and this one encounter that I'm going to share. It was actually Bethany's coworker, Jess, and their new ED, Alex, came to the winery because when I reached out, they were saying, "Oh my goodness, we're so excited. You want to partner with us? We'll drive out to the winery." And Stephanie, I, and them two, we met for an hour and a half and talked. And they were, so excited. It was like a job interview. When can we hear back? We want to know. We want to know. And sending follow-up emails and whatnot. And to be a part of a community where people are so eager to collaborate and really get this done. I didn't really understand it at first, but it makes me excited to, partner with 1%. I think that answered the question.
All right, Stephanie and Jacob, thank you very much. Much better than I could have said it, so on the spot.
Yeah, I think we exist as business owners and business representatives at a time where there's a void in federal and state climate policy right now, and a lot of consumers are looking to vote with their dollar and vote with their purchases. And as consumer-facing goods, we give those opportunities to consumers. And 1% is something that is reputable, it's known, it's certified. It gives that accreditation that allows the consumer to look at it and not need to Google and search and go in deep on your company, but make that 2-second decision that, yes, I'm going to choose Hub over Budweiser. And you better. And we've done consumer panel testing where we just see what resonates with consumers. And one thing that comes up time and time again is the impact on the environment and what are we doing there. And I had this conversation earlier with Amanda, but 1% makes it so much easier to market that it just makes sense. 1% for the planet, we're giving 1% of our sales to environmentally conscious nonprofits. Trying to explain B Corp, you truly need a full elevator pitch about how it touches all these different aspects and facets of the business. But 1% is just that quick, something the consumer can discern and take and go with it. And then on the back end with employees and our stakeholders internally, people want to work for companies that care. And one of our retention strategies has been to work with more nonprofits, to work as a B Corp, and you'd be surprised the amount of people who are interested in working for Brew Doctor now, since we became a 1% member and a B Corp, that comes in on their why. We always ask, why do you want to work for Brew Doctor? It's just a kind of blanket question, and that comes up time and time again. So from a retention strategy as well as a consumer basis strategy, they both just work symbiotically together.
I can't speak to the business side, but I'll just speak to kind of the ripeness of the climate and environmental movement from our perspective in our programs. I think I mentioned this. Our online impressions are half a billion in the last few years. We offer courses that this is very LA, I think, but we offer courses that people pay to learn about soil and advocacy. We've had 5,000 people sign up to take our courses. They paid $300, give or take, a course for a 7-week. I mean, what does that tell you about people's eagerness and appetite? They feel like they want to be involved to such an extent that they'll pay to learn about it and get the skill set to be an ambassador for it. And then in our farmer program, we just launched our pilot, which was 20 farmers. We haven't done a single bit of advertising, and we've had at least 125 reach out in the last few months. So I think the appetite is so there, and I can't speak to consumers, but just kind of through the facets of the public we work with, there's such excitement and a desire to get involved from people from all walks of life in this work.
Yeah, so question about, what does the process look like? The good news is to kind of hop in and make the commitment. It's pretty low barrier to entry. So I definitely call B Corp your boot camp, 1% for the planet. As soon as you kind of do that internal math and we have a conversation, it's a signature on a document and a membership fee, which is a small portion of your giving. And then you actively do the remainder of your donations to reach your commitment throughout the course of your fiscal year at a timing that makes sense for you. So some companies do give quarterly or monthly to keep themselves on goal. Others will wait till the close of the year to know their actual revenue, do lump sum giving then. So very flexible in that regard.
as a newbie, I just have to say, I mean, and in the wine industry, we've got live certification and Detmer and lots of paperwork and lots of hassle, right? I mean, none of those are easy. This was the easiest organization I have ever joined in my entire life. The Boy Scouts took more work to join than 1% for the Planet. It really was. And it's just, the website's so easy. Amanda, she's in Amity. It's so awesome to have somebody right here. It literally took us, I don't know, 18 minutes to join, something like that. It's that simple to get started and make this a part of your organization. It's just the easiest thing we've ever joined in our business's existence.
More questions? There must be, yes. A couple quick stats on that. There's 100 members in Oregon that are members of 1% for the Planet. There's 165 nonprofits that benefit from 1% for the Planet. So that's Oregon anyway. I'll let you talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah, so 165 Oregon-based nonprofits that could be a beneficiary of 100 business members. So, not all those 165 will get supported any given year. So that's always the ratio we're trying to balance out. So that is definitely growing. The question being, of Oregon being progressive, being a bubble, where else are we seeing energy, movement, growth, and momentum in the network? So as Janie mentioned, we had phenomenal uptick in growth generally this year, 2019. A lot of that coming out of the climate strikes and the youth movement and, this uptick we're seeing in the urgency of climate, people saying, okay, what can I do? I feel it, but what is my action? So definitely Europe, tons of interest coming from the UK. I support Australia as well. We've doubled the network there in the last year. So definitely, they're experiencing wild and bushfires right now in their backyard and kind of seeing that while their government's saying, okay, we're going to shut down climate strikes. So the businesses are the ones stepping up to really make that change. So definitely, I always call it our roots and our heart and soul is here on the West Coast, but very much so balanced out in the East Coast. So New York, Boston, Toronto. And then you look at the map, you can go to the website and pull up the map and it's all geolocated. So we have members in the heart of the Midwest. I have one member in Manitoba that's leading the charge. So it's definitely global, it's definitely there, but inspiring how it is growing.
Another question? Sorry.
Yeah, great question. So how does a nonprofit get involved in the network? So being that ratio of 2,500 business members and several thousand nonprofit partners, we do ask that new nonprofits coming to the network are coming at the recommendation of a business member. So, having conversations in the room with local businesses here saying, okay, we only have a couple of nonprofits in Willamette Valley. How can we grow who is in the network here nonprofit-wise based on the support of these businesses? So it's a nomination by a supporting business. The nonprofit itself, no cost to them, but they do fill out our application, go through our due diligence process. So we try to make it low barrier to entry, but with that incoming support, which then would open them up, hopefully, to more business support. And also a fun element of the model too, you've heard a couple mentions on tonight, we have individual membership as well as of the last couple years. So any person can commit to giving 1% of their salary or their net worth, give it back directly, small member dues, and their whole commitment beyond the dues can be up to 100% volunteer time. So really trying to motivate people to, get out in your community, do that watershed cleanup, do that pollinator planting. So that's been a really neat evolution to the model as well.
So if you get nominated, why would nominate somebody? What am I looking for?
Yeah, great question. So what makes a nonprofit eligible? What are we looking for? So environmental nonprofit's a very broad term. We categorize it across 6 different core issue areas. You'll see reflected on the website, land, pollution, water, wildlife, climate, and then food. Thank you. Can't forget food. Within those, all sorts of different solutions. So, from your deep green tree planting to your policy and advocacy work. So from our end, we're looking for the nonprofit to have registered charity status in the country where they're housed. That's definitely an important parameter on our end. And then environmental alignment of mission and program. So that looks like a lot of different ways and is something as a team we're always evolving how we're thinking about it. So Project Drawdown was a great book that came out recently. Paul Heuck, great climate scientist, looking at what are the top 100 solutions to how we can draw down climate out of the atmosphere. Top 5 in that, I think it was number 3, was educating women and girls. So, we went back and looked at the network and say, okay, where in the work of nonprofits is that showing up? How can we open up nonprofits to members that can be supporting that work as a climate solution? So long, short answer is a lot of different ways, but great question.
I'm on the board of Salmon Safe as well, and we're a watershed eco-label that has been really quite successful in the valley here. We got 250 participants, and that's more than anywhere in our network. So it seems to be that 1% for the Planet is really customer-friendly bolt-on to that ethos, and just highlighted for me. I'm like, you have 250 right in your backyard, 250 potential clients that I think could really have a neat way of packaging up stuff they're probably doing anyway and taking credit for it.
More questions? No? Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about the nonprofits you are already supporting, how that plays into joining? Like, were you using that as a gateway to joining 1%? I want more clarification there. Like, if you were already supporting a nonprofit that's in this environmental field, that they would refer or you could advocate for them.
I can start, and we have a couple great examples here, I think, that have been mentioned. Yeah, so basically, it's looking at your fiscal year. If you've already been giving to a nonprofit that is already approved in our network, absolutely, that giving counts. So, for the B Corp dues on the panel, their B Corp dues count within their commitments. Or, like Danny mentioned, BEF offsets. We're already doing offsets with a nonprofit provider. That absolutely counts. So, yeah, that's a great question. Any other examples?
Yeah. Well, Demeter, too. We're Demeter certified, so that counts.
I don't think I knew B Corp counted. That's sweet. All right.
Our controller learned that for us, and I looked very dumb. Yeah, and then also, for us, so when we, so Eco and Brew Doctor came in together as nonprofits. So those were 2 companies that were already working. We were already donating to Eco. We were giving them space in our office, and it just made sense to then join 1%, and then we together shepherded it in to the 1% space. And then I don't think we've talked about the marketing component. Yeah. So what percent? 25. I was going to say 20. So of your 1% donation accrual, you can spend 25% of it on marketing. So last year we did billboards across Portland with 1%, and I'm not on the marketing team, so I'm going to butcher what the phrase was, but it had the 1% logo, and we talked about our love can, which is our flavor that we do the 1% sales on. And that just makes it things that we already are going to spend on, whether it be paid on Instagram or paid on Facebook or on a billboard, all these different channels of communication to consumers. If you incorporate either your nonprofit that you're donating to, incorporate 1% or issue area, you can then allocate from your 1% fund to that marketing initiative. So it's just a really holistic way to continue to do what you're already doing, but within the 1% boundary foundation framework.
So we did put it on all of our labels for everything that we bottled in 2019. Both for Demeter for 1%, for B Corp, all very, very important. We did a video series. So we did, you guys all got the invitation tonight about sip 1% better, farm 1% better, grow 1% better. Like, we're gonna just keep going with this theme forever because it touches so many facets of our business. You know, have your team 1% better. Like, you could just keep going with the better concept, and I'm super excited to know that 1% is keeping that as kind of their mantra for all of 2020, because it's really applicable to everything we all do every single day. You can find a reason to be that much better. More questions? So the call to action is obvious. Companies and individuals can join 1% for the Planet. But we do have a raffle tonight, so if anybody hasn't signed up for the raffle, both of 1% for the Planet swag as well as some Brooks gift cards. We want you to stay and hang out and meet each other and know each other. I will tell you that is one of the things that has been amazing for me, just the networking, because I'm out of the wine industry when I'm at the Global Summit for 1% for the Planet, and I'm meeting people who care as much as I do about what we're doing and why we're doing it, but they're in a completely different industry. It's fascinating. And I know most of us are growers and wine people here tonight, or beverage people, but I think it's an opportunity to have a conversation that we don't normally get to have when we're very sucked into our day-to-day jobs. And I really ask you to enjoy each other tonight. We're going to be here till 9 o'clock. You are welcome to have more wine, more food, enjoy, and just get to know each other and really make some great connections. So thank you for being here.